So hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about how we can deploy an applications within AWS, and while deploying applications within AWS, we will try to utilize networking best practices. So we will not only deploy the applications into AWS environment, but we will also try to implement the networking design. So we will not only follow networking best practices, but at the same time, we will also follow security best practices as well. And the whole session will be entirely a demo sessions. So I'm not going to talk about any kind of theoretical concepts. So I believe more or less everyone has some knowledge about AWS VPC, subnets, internet gateways, route tables. So you should have some basic knowledge before you attend these sessions, right? So without further ado, let's try to understand what we are going to try to implement today. So basically, we're going to have two accounts, accounts A, and we're going to have accounts B. Just give me a sec. Yeah, so we're going to have accounts A and we're going to have accounts B. So we're going to build account A from scratch. Account B is already done. We don't need too much thing on account B, but whatever you can see on account A, we will do everything from scratch. On the other hand, in account B, we already created a VPC. And in the VPC, we have already subnets created, and RDS instance has already been deployed. So we will talk about account B later on, but now let's focus on account A. All right. So first of all, first thing first, we're gonna deploy a VPC in account A. So this is the green line is account. The green line is VPC in account A. And in the VPC, we're gonna use two AG, AGA, and AGB. Then we can see we have four subnets, right? This is subnet 1, this is subnet 2, this is subnet 3, and this is subnet 4. And in these four subnets, these two are public subnets and these two are private subnets. So we're gonna have two public subnets and we're gonna have two private subnets, right? And we can also see we will have route tables. One is public route tables and another one is private route tables. And we're going to have internet gateway. We also deployed an EC2 instance, as you see here, in private subnets. Then we're going to have load balancers, which will be used to distribute traffic between different servers, right? And then the reason we have account B is that we have an RDS instance in private subnets, and we will try to connect application server which resides in account A with the RDS which resides in account B. So that's what we're gonna do throughout the video. So without further ado, let's start. All right, so first we will create a VPC in account A, and the CIDR range of the VPC will be this 10.0.0.0/16. So I will jump into my account. So I will create an account I will create a VPC in account A. So let's click on create VPC. Let's give a name to this VPC. Let's say this is called VPC A. And the CIDR range, as I said, is 10.0.0.0/16, right? So it's as simple as that. I will leave everything as it is, and I will click on create VPC. So the VPC in account A has already been created. Now, if I look into the picture, so we created VPC. Now what we're gonna do, we will create 4 subnets into this VPC. In these 4 subnets, 2 will be public subnets and 2 will be private subnets, right? So I will go to subnet sections. And in the subnets, I will create a public subnet first. So I will choose my VPC that I created. I will give a name to my subnet. This is called public subnet 1. And the range will be 10.0.0 1.0/24. So this is my public subnet 1. So public subnet 1 has been created. Now I will jump into public subnet 2. So I will create another subnet in the same VPC, give a name to the subnet, which is public subnet 2. The CIDR range would be 10.0.2.0/24. That's it. Now I will create a private subnet. So I will choose the same VPC that I created. I will give a name to the VPC, which is called private subnet. This is subnet number 3. CIDR range would be 10.0.3.0/24. All right, so okay, so I created a private subnet. So I will click on create subnets. So the private subnet has been created, right? I will create another private subnets. So I will choose the VPC that I created, and I will give a name to my private subnet, which is called private subnet 4. And I will give a range to the subnets 10.0.4.0/24. Right, so I just created private subnets. So whoever has joined late, let me give a quick overview what I have done. So basically, we're going to have two accounts, account A and account B. We will create everything from scratch in account A. Account B, whatever you see in account B has already been there. So I don't need to worry about too much about account B. Right, so whatever you see in account A, we're going to build from scratch. I have already created account B. Whatever you see in account B has already been created. In account A, we're going to create a VPC. So VPC I just created, you see in the green line, this is a VPC. And in the VPC, we're going to have 4 subnets, 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets. So we're going to have 4 subnets, 2 are public and 2 are private. So that was I have done so far. The CIDR range for the VPC is 10.0.0.0/16, and we also have CIDR range for each subnets, as you see here. So that one has been already done. We already created 4 subnets, right? So the question is, the process of creating a public or private subnet is same, but what makes a subnet public and private is route table. So every subnet has an associated route table, and in the route table we can define the route. And if we define a route to internet, that route table will be a private route table, and that route table will be a public route table. And whatever subnets associated with that public subnets will be a public subnets. Let me rephrase. So basically, let's talk about this one. So we have 2 public subnets, but still this is a subnet. It's not a public or private. We created subnets. Now what we're going to do, we will create a public route table, and then we will assign the route table with these public subnets. And in this route table, we will define a route which will let traffic to move into internet. So if the route table has a target with internet gateway, if this route table has a target of internet gateway, then whatever subnets associated with this route table will be a public subnets. On the other hand, in this route table, it will not have any target of internet gateway. And that's why these 2 route tables will be a private route table, right? So let's do the demo. So let me quickly jump into my console. As you can see here, I have created 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets, right? But these are still subnets, but we need to associate a route table with these subnets. So I will create 2 route tables. One will be public route tables and one will be private route tables. So I will create a route table. I will call it public route table. The VPC is the one I have created. That's it. And then I will create another route table for private. I created another route table for private. All right. So if we look at the routes, of private route table, you can see there's a destination. So what does it mean? Any route, any traffic, this is the CIDR of the VPC that this route will belong to. So in this route table, we have one route, and what this route means, whatever traffic started from, whatever traffic destined for this VPC can talk, let me rephrase. So what does it mean? It means any traffic within the VPC can talk to each other. So if we have two application server within this VPC, they can talk to each other. So that's what this route table means. And so far, this route table is private because this route table only allows internal communications within VPC. All right. Now I will jump into public route table. I will jump into public route table. I will go back to route table. So let's go to the public route table. So if I look at the routes, it looks similar than the private route table. But now I will make this route table public. And to do that, what I will do, but before that, I need to create an internet gateway. Internet gateway is the component which will make a subnet public or private. So I will create an internet gateway. Let's say, let's give a name, internet gateway. I will create the internet gateway. That's not it. I need to attach this internet gateway into a VPC. So I will attach the internet gateway to the VPC that I have created. That's all. All right. So I created an internet gateway and I make an attachment with the VPC. All right. So now I will go back to my route table. And in the route table, I will choose my public route table. And then I will go to routes tab. And then I will click on edit routes. And then I will add a route. And what I will say, any traffic that goes to internet from this VPC, the traffic will go through internet gateway. All right. So I just select the internet gateway that I have created, and I will save the routings. So if I go back to my routings again, so what I'm saying, so I can see there are two routes. So this route will let any communication within the VPC possible, and these routes will let any routing from VPC to internet possible. So without this route, the route will be a private route table. But because we just added this entry, now this route table is a public route table. And what I'm going to do, I have created two public subnets, and I will associate that public route table with this public subnets, with these subnets. So I will select the subnet 2, public subnet 2. Then I will click route tables. I will change the route tables by clicking this button. I will change the route table to the one that I have created. That's it. So this route table is now, this subnet is now a public subnet. Now I will do the same thing for subnet 1, public subnet 1. I will go to route table. I will change the route table association. I will choose the public route table I have created. And that's it. So we have two route table. We have created two route table. One is public route table and one is private route table. Public route table is associated with public subnets, and that makes that subnets public. So public route table has been associated with these two subnets. So now these two subnets become a public subnets. Now, if I go back to my picture, my diagram, so if we look here, we can see I have created these subnets, which is public subnets. I have created this subnet, so everything has been created. So basically this one done, everything is done. Route table has been created as well. Now, what we're gonna do, as you can see here, we will deploy an application server or EC2 instance in the private subnets, right? The reason we're going to deploy our application server in a private subnet, because it's a security-based practices. Any kind of application servers, database servers should reside inside private subnets. And the reason is, whatever inside the private subnets, no one from internet can talk to those components. For example, if we deploy a database in private subnets, that means no unauthorized person can access that RDS. So it's a security-based practices. We should deploy our application servers or database servers within private subnets. All right, we can create a public sub. We can deploy an application server here in public subnets, but that might have some security vulnerabilities, because whatever we deploy in public subnets, that means anyone from internet might get access into those servers. So again, it's a security-based practices. Deploy any kind of application servers or database servers within private subnets. So now I'm gonna create an application server in this private subnets. Anyways, if you have any kind of questions, just let me know. So what I'm going to do, I will go back to my console. All right, so so I will deploy an application server into a private subnets. So I will go to EC2. I will go to EC2 instance. I will create an instance. I will launch an instance. All right, so this is a new interface. Let's go back to old one, which I'm comfortable with. So I will create, I believe you guys knows the process of deploying an EC2 instance into VPC. So I will choose the VPC I'll choose the EC2 instance that I have created, and then I will choose my instance type. Then I will choose the VPC that we have created, and then I will choose one of the private subnets, right? So I choose private subnet 3, right? So there will not be any kind of IP address. So that's all I want. And then I will go back to storage. I will leave it as it is. I will go to tags. Let's give a name to the tag. Let's say the name is called web server, right? So basically we are going to deploy a web server into our VPC. So then I will create security groups. So basically what I want, initially I want SSH port open. All right, SSH port should be open. That's it. That's what I want. And what else I want? Oh, that's all. And I will launch the EC2 instance, right? So I will launch the EC2 instance. I will create a EC2. I need to create a key pair, and let's give a name to the key pair, and that is, let's say, my key pair. So this key pair can be used to SSH into the server, right? So I will download the key pair, and then I will launch the instance. All right. So I have deployed this instance into private subnets. So what I'm going to do, I will try to SSH into this private subnet. But the problem is, if I go back to my picture, the problem is because the server is deployed into private subnets, that means I cannot directly SSH into this server because it's in private subnet. It doesn't have any internet access, right? So what we can do, there are many options, but one of the very common option could be, we have a public subnets, and in the public subnets, I will create another server, right? Which is missing though, but I will create another server I will deploy another server in public subnet, and that server will act as a jump box or bastion host, right? So that means basically if you want to SSH into, just give me a second. If I want to SSH into this server, I have to SSH into bastion host first, and then from the bastion host, I can SSH into the server, right? So basically we're gonna deploy a bastion host or jump box in public subnets. So let's do that again. So I will create another instance. So this one will be same as previous. Then I will select my VPC, which I created. The subnet will be public. Remember one thing. So we will create a subnet. We will create a virtual machines in public subnets so that I can access into the server that we created in private subnets. So I will choose public subnet here. That's all, I think. And then I will go to next stage. Next stage, I gave a name to this server. Let's say the name is box, or we call it bastion host, right? So this server will be acting as a bastion host. Then I will configure the security groups. I will open the SSH port open. I will keep the SSH port open, and then I will review and launch. And then I will choose the key pair, the key pair that I have created previously. I will use the same one. So the one I have created is this one, right? So I have successfully deployed a bastion host in public subnets. Now what I'm going to do, so, all right, so just refresh for a few seconds. Okay, so now I will SSH into this bastion host. This bastion host has been deployed into public subnets, and this web server has been deployed into private subnets. So we're gonna SSH. So to SSH into this web server, first we will SSH into bastion host, and then from the bastion host we will SSH into web servers, because web server is deployed into private subnets and we cannot directly access into private subnets, right? So I will click on connect. So I will copy paste this one, and then I will go back to my terminal. Okay, let me make my screen bigger. So before doing that, what I need to do, so the key pair I have downloaded is this, right? So what I'm going to do, I will change the permissions on this key pair, which is recommended by AWS. So I will change the permissions to 400 to this key pair. That's it. Now I will SSH into the bastion host with SSH command, and just give me a few seconds. Let's see what's happening. All right, let's see. Something okay. In a second, I will go back here. Oh, it's still initializing. Just give me a few seconds, and I will come back. Oops, let's try it again. It's still not working. What is happening? So let's troubleshoot why I cannot SSH into this portal. I will check my security groups, check everything is okay. Right, just give me a second. So, okay, so is it okay? So let's try again. I think something is wrong. So what I'm going to do, I will go back to my subnets, public subnets, and check if Internet Gateway is there. So this is public route table. I can see the Internet Gateway is here, and I will go to both of them. So it has Internet Gateway, and what's about this one? Does it have Internet Gateway? It has Internet Gateway. And if I go back to my bastion host that I just created, I will go to networking. I will check my subnets, public subnets too. Okay, so why it's not happening? Just a second. Okay, let's check my security group. Make sure security group has port open. All right, so what is happening? So I will go back to my server again. Okay, so this is my bastion host, and then I connect. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I use private. Okay, I made a mistake. So what I need to do, I will delete the instance because I cannot use private IP. So I will delete this instance. Okay, so I need to make sure the bastion host should have a public IP. So I will create a new one. Sorry for that. I will create a new bastion host. So I will go back here. Then I will choose my VPC. I will choose public subnet 1, and then I have to make sure IP is enabled. That was missing previously. So I will go back to storage. That's it. Let's give a name. Ask me any questions anytime. So let's give a name, Jambox. Let's give a different name. And then I will configure my security group. I will keep SSH port open, and then review and launch, and I will use the existing KPI, which is this one, right? And that's it. So I have just created a new Jambox and deployed it into public subnets, right? And then I will go back to view instance. I will wait for a few minutes until it's get provisioned. Any questions so far? Just let me know. All right, so Jambox has been up and running. I will try to connect into this Jambox. So I will get the details. Now see, we have public IP. So I hope it will work now. So I will go back to my terminal, and then I will paste my SSH command, and let's see what is happening. Oops, I made mistakes. See, so now you can see I can connect to my bastion host. Now what I'm gonna do, from this bastion host, I will jump into my application server, which has been deployed into private subnets. But before that, what I will do, I will exit from the bastion host, and I will get the key pair. I will get the private key. So the private key was this one. So this is my private key. I will copy paste my private key, and now I will SSH into my bastion host, and I will create that private key in bastion host, because whenever I try to SSH into private subnet from bastion host, private subnets also need that private key. So I will create a new private key with the same name. Second. Yep. So I copy paste my private key here. I think missing. Okay, just let copy that again. I will copy my key here, and then I will paste it here. So the private key has been copied. As well, I need to change the permissions to 400. That's it. So I have created a private key that I need to SSH into the private application server, right? So now I will go back to my console. I will get the connection details for my web server, which has been deployed into private subnet, right? So I will get the details. And now I will SSH here. So can you see, I can access now in private subnets. So if I go back to my diagram, so I have SSH into this server from here, right? So I can successfully SSH into my server, but still there's a problem. And the problem is this server doesn't have any internet connectivity, because it is within private subnet, so it cannot talk to internet. I can give you a demo. If I type ping 8.8.8.8, this is the DNS name of Google. So if I ping, you can see I don't get any response. The reason is this web server has been deployed into private subnet, and private subnet doesn't have any route to internet. That's why private subnet cannot talk to internet, right? So what we can do, if we look at the diagram again, we can see to let application server talk to internet, we will deploy a NAT gateway in public subnets. And that's where application server, whenever application server needs to talk to internet, the traffic will go through NAT gateway, right? So we will create a NAT gateway in both subnets. We can create NAT gateway in one AZ, but it's recommended to make more NAT gateway in more in two. So it's recommended to create more NAT gateways, right? But I will create a one NAT gateway in public subnets, and we will let the application server talk to internet. So I will go back to my console. Just a second. Right. So what I'm going to do, I will go back to VPC. I will go back to VPC. This is my VPC dashboard. Then I will choose NAT Gateway. NAT Gateway is somewhere here. You can see NAT Gateway is here. I will create a NAT Gateway. Let's give a name, my NAT Gateway. Right. I will choose my subnet. So the subnet will be a public subnet. So let's say I choose public subnet 1. Right. I choose public subnet 1, and then I also need to associate an elastic IP. So I associate an elastic IP to the NAT gateway. That's it. So I created a NAT gateway, but that's not it. We need to associate that NAT gateway with the private route table. So if I go to route table, then if I go to private route table, because the private route table has a problem with internet connectivity, right? So I will create another route in private route table, and I'm going to tell any route going to internet, it will go through NAT gateway. That's where I can define how traffic from private subnet can traverse to internet, right? So I will add an entry to the private route table, and I will click save. And let's see. If I go back here and let's ping it, it's still not working. And why it's not working? So I need to do a little bit of investigation, and then because okay, so I will go to my security groups. I will check if outbound traffic is open or not. So it seems outbound traffic is there. So nothing is wrong here. What else we can do? Let's go back to my terminal again. Let's say cloudindepth.com. Still not working. So let's see so this is my application server, and then I will go to subnets. This is the subnets this is the private subnets where I deployed the application server, and then I will check the route table. Something is okay. Just give me a second. Okay. So let me check one thing. So private subnet should have a private route table associated, but it doesn't have private route table associated. So let's associate it with the private route table, right? Let's do the same thing for other route table, other subnets. So I will update the route table. So that was missing. All right, so I think it's pretty good now. So let's do it again. So you can see I can now ping a website called cloudindepth.com. This is my website. So I ping the website and I can see that I get response back. That means I'm able to ping to internet from private subnets with the help of NAT Gateway. So it's working fine now, right? So what I'm going to do now, I will create a web server in this application server. All right. So I will create and let's say I will create a web server. So let's do a sudo update first. All right. And then I will create sudo yum install nginx. We're going to install a web server, but I think I have the wrong command. The right command is this one, because this is an Amazon Linux machine. So the command to install web server is this. So I will paste this one. So web server has been created. Right? Okay. So, all right. So web server has been created. What I will do, I will start the server. So web server has been started. I will enable the server as well, so that whenever the virtual machine gets rebooted, the server will be automatically started. So I will enable the web server. So that's pretty good now. And then we have someone just joined. It's too late. All right. So what I'm going to do, so I have created virtual machines in a private subnets, and in the virtual machines, I deployed a web server. And let's see if it's works. So I will just simply make a call command. So see, I can get a response back. All right. So I have successfully deployed an application server or a web server in a private subnets, and then I can see that the web server has been successfully deployed, right? But the problem is, if I go back to my management console, if I go back to my instance, so this is the server we just created, but the problem is this server has been deployed into private subnets. That means no one from internet can access into this server. And if I look at the details, I can see this server has only private IP address. It doesn't have public IP address. All right. So that means no one from internet can directly access into these servers. So we have an application server running in this web server. So how we can let other people or people from outside can access into the web server so that they can visit the web pages? And the answer is, if I look at my architecture, the answer is because we already deployed this server and it is in private subnets. That means this one cannot, let's say client. So client machine cannot directly access into the server. And the way it can access into the server is we can deploy a load balancer in public subnets, and that load balancer will divert the traffic to the private subnets. So in other way, or if I rephrase it, what I mean, the only way to get access into the web servers from browser is through the load balancer. So we're going to deploy a load balancer, but before that, I deployed a server in this subnet, but I also want to deploy another server so that we can see how load balancer works. So I will repeat the process. I will create another server. I will create another server. So I will go to instance. So the previous one was created in private subnet 3. So the previous one was created in here in private subnet. So we created a virtual machine here. Now we will create my bad. So we created this one. Now we will create this one, right? So let's do that. So I will create an instance, launch instance. But before that, let me do one thing. So I will do a little bit of modification of the page that we have in virtual machine 1. So I will go to I will open this page in user share Nginx HTML index. So I will make a little bit of changes. Right. So I will make a little bit of changes. I will say this is server A, right? So I will make a changes. That's it. All right. So I will create another server in another private subnets. And then I will choose a VPC that I have created. And then I will choose the private subnet 4. Everything I will leave as it is, and then I will create a storage, and then from the storage I will give a name. Let's say web server 2. Sorry, my bad. Web server 2. Right. So okay. Everything will leave it as it is. All right. I will choose a KPI, create. I will use the existing one, my KPI. All right. Okay, that's all. So I created another virtual machines. Now I will try to SSH into this virtual machine and will install the web server into this machine. So this is the one I just created. So I will get the connection. I will get the IP address, and then I will go back to my terminal. I will exit from the virtual machines 1, and now I'm in Bastion host. From Bastion host, I will SSH into the server 2. Right. Okay. So, yeah. So I have successfully SSH into server 2. Now I will create a web server. Then I forget the command. So let's try to get the command again. What was the command? Yeah, this is the command. So I will copy paste the command to create the web server, and then I will paste it. So web server has been created. Just give me a few seconds. And then what I'm gonna doing, so I will start the server. And then I will enable the server. And if I check with call command, I can see it's working. So I will update the page now. Sudo user Nginx, sorry, share Nginx HTML index. Sorry, share Nginx. My bad. What? Sudo VM user share Nginx HTML index. Right. So I will make small changes. So I will make it server 2. This is server B, right? So that's all. So I have created 2 servers. Now I will create a load balancer so that I can see the page. So I will create a load balancer here. But before create a load balancer, I need to create a target group. And what target group will do, target group will specify which servers will belong to this load balancer, right? So I will create a target group, and that target group will specify which 2 servers will belong to that load balancer, right? So I will go to my management console again. So I will go back to my management console. I will go to target groups, create a target group. So target will be an instance. Let's say my target, right? So I will choose the VPC I have created. I think this is the one I have created. Let everything as it is. All right. Next. In next step, I will choose the servers that should belong to the load balancer. So these are the two servers that will belong to the load balancer. And then I will select the servers and I will press this button, include as pending below, and then create the target group. So the target group has been created. Now what we're going to do, we will create a load balancer. If I click on load balancer, create a load balancer, then I will create application load balancer, give a name, let's say my LB. It will be internet facing load balancer. And then I will choose my VPC, which is this one. And then I will choose the subnets. So basically, I can see I have, okay. So I can see basically what I did. So these two subnets are deployed in the same AZ. So in the diagram, we can see there are two AZ, but what I did, both of these subnets has been deployed into the same AZ. So that's why you can see just only one AZ. So I will choose the public subnets, any of the public subnets. So this is the public subnets where my load balancer will be deployed, right? And then I will choose a security groups that will be assigned to that load balancer. And in the security group, I can specify which port should open or which port should not be opened, right? So I will choose a security group. I'll leave everything as it is. Just give me one more sec. And all right, so yep, that's all. So create load balancer. Did I miss anything? Oh, it says I need to, at least two subnets must be specified. So it's saying we should have two subnets. So at least two subnets must be specified. So what I can do, let's cancel this thing. So let's create another subnets. Or what I can do, okay, let's create another subnets. Let's create another subnet because load balancer needs at least two subnets in different AZ, right? So I will go back to my VPC. I will create a subnet. So let's create another subnet. Let's say public subnet. This is another learning thing. So you need to make sure if you want to use load balancer, there should be at least two subnets at least in two different AZ. So this is subnet number 5. It will be a public subnets. So let's use a different region. Let's say the range would be 210.0.5.0/24. That's it. So I created a subnet, and also I need to make sure the subnet is associated with public route table because this is a public subnet, right? Okay. So I created another subnet in another region. So now what I'm going to do, I will go back to my EC2 page. I will click on create load balancer. It will be an application load balancer. And then give a name to this load balancer. It will be my LB. Everything is as it is. I will choose my subnets. And then now you can see I have two zone. So make sure you choose the public subnets one, public subnet 1. And here I will choose public subnet 5, right? That's all, everything as it is, leave as it is. And then I will click on create load balancer. Oh, I need to choose the target group as well. The target group I just created, right? So that's all, create load balancer, right? So load balancer has been created. And now if I go back to my architecture, so basically I have done pretty much everything. So pretty much all of them has been done. We have load balancer just created. We have 2 servers deployed into 2 subnets. We have created 4 subnets, 2 are public subnets and 2 are private subnets. We have route table here. We created internet gateway, which is attached to the VPC. So it's all done. So now what I'm going to do, I will try to do one thing. Let me clear this thing. So now I will go back to my load balancer, and I will, every load balancer has a DNS name or domain name. So I will click the DNS that is associated with my load balancer. And what I will do, I will copy paste here. Hope it works. It's not working. So why it's not working? Let's try to find out some problems. First of all, I have to make sure load balancers, the security group associated with this load balancer has port 80 open. So if I go to the default one, if I go to the security groups that is associated with the load balancer, I can see I need to update the source. So basically the source would be everyone. So what I'm saying, because the load balancer is associated with the subnets, what I will do, I will open HTTP port for everyone so that everyone can access into the load balancer, right? So I will save the rules for these security groups, and let's try to refresh the page. It's still not working, something still missing. Now what I will do, I will go to the target, let's see the target groups. How is that? Let's go to target groups. This is my target groups, and let's see. I can see the target is failing. Why is that? So if I go to the web server, what I need to do, I need to check at the security groups. If I go back to security groups, and I can see the security group doesn't have port 80 open, and that's why it's failing. So I have to make sure HTTP port is open, and it's open for, I can make it open for everyone, but rather what I will do, I will open it only for load balancer. There's no point opening it for everyone. So I will go back to my load balancer. So load balancer has an associated security group. So this is the security group, and I will copy it and I will paste it here. So what I'm saying if this HTTP port is open for those who has this security group attached. All right, and that's where we can let load balancer access into the server, right? So I will save it, and I will do the same thing for other instance. So I'm not sure which one it was that. So it has security groups. I can see. Now I will do it for this one as well. So this is for other server. I will do the same thing. I will edit the rules. I will add HTTP rules, and I have to make sure HTTP is open for that security groups. That's all, right? And then I will go back to my target groups, and let's see if it's working. I will go back here. So let's do one thing. Let's deregister. And now let's register the machines again. So I will register these 2 machines again. Okay, register. Okay. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I will try to answer. All right. It's quite taking time. All right. Okay, I can see now the target group can access can verify my server as healthy, because previously the security group rule was blocking traffic. Now I open traffic for HTTP port from load balancer. So now it's working. So now what I will do, I will go back to my server and I will, let's see if it's happening. See, it's back. The load balancer is working. So basically what is happening, the load balancer is distributing traffic between two servers. This is, let's say, server, let's say this is server A and this is server B, and load balancer is distributing traffic between these two servers. So if I refresh the page, first it will divert the traffic here. Then if I refresh the page again, then it will divert the traffic here, right? And that's where a load balancer works. So let's keep refreshing the page and let's see. So right now, if you see, if you can see, right now it's server A. Now let's refresh the page. See, it's becoming server B. See, so it's becoming server B, server A, server B. So if you look at the server thing, this text, you will see it's keep changing. That means load balancer is distributing traffic between two servers, right? So we have a few key points from this demo. First of all, we have learned that all the application servers and all the database servers should reside into public subnets. So you can see application server is residing into private subnets, and also you can see RDS is residing into private subnets. So this is one key point. Make sure all the application servers and all the database servers resides within private subnets. And also, because they are residing into private subnets, they cannot talk to internet. And to do that, what we can do, we can deploy NAT Gateway into public subnets. And we have to update the route table as well. And that way, private subnet can talk to internet, right? So there can be outgoing communication possible with the help of NAT Gateway. But right now, only outgoing traffic can possible. But what if someone from outside try to access the applications from the browser? That will not be possible. So if someone from browser type the IP address of this server, they will not get access. What they can do, or what we can do, we can have a load balancer in front of these two servers, and that load balancer can distribute traffic between the servers. And basically, rather than using the IP address of the servers, the client machine will use the domain name that is associated with the load balancer. And that's what we have done, right? So we have done everything from here, right? So any other questions from anyone so far? I'm nearly done. So I believe that's pretty much all, but I still have one thing left, and that is this one, right? So why we have account B? I created we can deploy the RDS into this account, right? But what I did, I deployed the database servers into different account so that we can see the connectivity thing. So because right now what I'm going to do, let me clear this thing. So we have an application running here. We have an application server, and that application server is trying to talk to this RDS instance. But because these two server, this server and this RDS resides in different network, they cannot talk to each other. All right. So to do that, we have two options. We can either use VPC peering, or we can either use transit gateway. And these two way, we can use either way. In either way, we can establish a network connectivity between different VPC, even if they belong to different account, even if they belong to different region. So that's where we can create network connectivity between two different VPCs. And that's what I'm going to do. And that will be the last part of the demo. right? So what I'm going to do, so I will leave this transit gateway for another session. It's quite, it will take more time. So I will use the VPC peering for this connectivity. So what I will do, I will go to my account. So this is my AWS account. Just give me a second. So this is my AWS account. So I will create a VPC peering. I will go to VPC, and then I will go to connect VPC peering connection. You can see I will create a peering connection. I will choose account A. This is the VPC that will be associated with this peering, and I will associate this peering with another peering from another account, right? So I have that account ready in hand. So this is account, this is account B. So, and as you can see, I already deployed an RDS instance, right? So what I will do, I need the account ID of that of account B, and then what I will do, just a second. So I will copy here, I'll copy the account name, and I will choose the region. It will be the same, it will be Sydney region. I think I don't, just a second. Yeah, it will be the same region. And then I will choose the VPC. So I will copy paste the VPC ID from second account. So if I go back my VPC thing, I will get the VPC name, or I will click on the RDS instance, and I will copy paste the VPC from here. So this is the VPC from account B, and that one I will need here. So I will, I will copy paste my VPC ID. All right. So I'm creating a peering connections between account A and account B. So I'm in account A now. So you can create the connections from either of the accounts. You can create the connections in account A, or you can create the connections in account B. But in both cases, you need to accept the connections from other account. So I created an peering connection in account A. So I just create the connections. As soon as I create the connections in account B, if I go to VPC, I can see the connection request will be there. If I click on peering connection, I can see the connection request just arrive, but also I need to accept the connections. It's in pending acceptance state. So I need to accept the connection. So I accept the request. So now the connection has been established. So I have, if I go back to my diagram, so I have created a connection from account A. I have created a connection from account A, and then I send a request to account B, and account B accept the connection. And once account B accept the connections, the VPC peering connection has been established. This is one thing. And second thing, I need to create a route in the route table as well. And to do that, I will go back to my private route table. I will go back to my private route table. Just give me a sec. So I will go back to my private route table I will go back to my private route table in VPC A, right? So what I will do, if I go to route table, because the application server has been deployed into private route table, we need to add an entry into private route table. So routes, so the route, what I need to specify a route. I need to add an entry for the route. So what the route would be, so I want any traffic going to VPC B will go through the peering, will go through the peering connection we just established. And here I need the CIDR IP range of VPC B. So if I go back to VPC B, from account 2, if I go back to here, and I need this IP range. So this is the IP range of the VPC where we deploy the RDS, and that's what I want. So in the route table, I'm specifying any traffic going to account B will go through the peering connections. So I created a route table in, I created a route entry in a private route table, and same thing we need to do in account B as well. So if I go back to account B, and if I go back to, if I go back to route table, so okay, if I go back to the RDS instance, let's go back to RDS instance, right? So I need to see which subnets the RDS is using. So I will go back to RDS instance, and then I will choose any of the subnets, and then I will go back to the route table associated with the subnets. So I already created an entry for this route table that is associated with the RDS instance. So in the route table from account B, I already space, okay, it's deleted. So let's delete that one. Okay, so just give me a second. So what I'll do, I will just a second. So I'm in route table, and then I will create a route, and I will say any traffic going to the VPC from account A. So this is the CIDR range of VPC A. So what I'm saying, any traffic going to this VPC will go through the peering connections, right? All right. So to make a network connectivity between two VPCs from different accounts or different regions, you need to do two things. First of all, you need to create a VPC peering connections. That's one thing, but it's not the end. What you need to do, you need to make the necessary entry in both route tables, right? So if I go back to my RDS instance again, and then I will do double check. And then what I will do, I will go to my database instance, and then I will select the instance, and this is the subnet. So let's go any of the subnets. I believe all of the subnets using the same route table. And then I will go to the route table, and you can see there is an entry already made. So what I will do, I will go back to any of the servers. This is my web servers. I can check it. So this is my web servers. So I will create a MySQL server, and I will try to make a connections into that RDS instance from this servers. So what I will do, I will create the MySQL server called MariaDB server. Right? Okay, so now I need to start the server. So MariaDB server has been started. Now what I will do, I will make a MySQL connection. I will create a MySQL connection from VPC A to VPC B, right? So I need the RDS details. So I'm in my VPC 2, and if I go back to my RDS, so I need the RDS endpoint. Right, so I need this RDS endpoint. Okay, now I will go back to my terminal. Okay, so now I will try to connect to that RDS instance. I will paste my RDS endpoint. The username is admin, which I already created, and the passwords I'm giving. Can you see? I can access into the MySQL server from, if I go back to my architecture, you can see I can, I'm SSH into this server. Now I make an MySQL connection into here, into this RDS, and even though they belong to different network, they belong to different region, or they belong to different account, I can easily make a MySQL connections from this application server into here. And that's how we can use VPC peering to establish a connections, right? And if I, let's say, if I delete one of the route that I created in a route table, if I go back to my account A, if I go back to my account A, so this is the route table. And let's say if I delete, sorry. So just give me a second. So if I delete this entry, let's delete the entry that is associated with the peering connections. Let's delete it. And if I delete it, the connection will not work anymore. So let's exit from the MySQL server and let's make another connection. See, the connection is not working because I deleted the entry from any of the route table that is associated with the application server, right? And that way we can make network connectivity between different components from different networks, right? We have another, so basically we have two well-known network connectivity options. One is called VPC peering, which I already give a demo. Just a second. So one is called VPC peering that I have already give a demo, but we have another option called transit gateway, which is nowadays more common. And basically, most of the enterprise or big companies like bank, ministries, they use transit gateway. There's the reason they use transit gateway rather than VPC peering, because VPC peering has some problems. So let me give you some idea what problem VPC peering has. Let's close it. I will, okay, just give me a second. All right, so there's a problem, and the problem is, just give me a second. Let's stop sharing, and let's just give me a second. So I will open the notebook. Right, so I think you can see my screen, right? So there's a problem, and the problem is, let's say we have two VPC. Let's say we have three VPC. This is called VPC A, and we have another VPC called VPC B, and we have another VPC called VPC C, right? So what VPC peering can do, they can pair two VPC peering they can pair maximum two VPCs. They cannot pair more than two VPCs, right? So we can make a peering connections between A and C. We can make a peering connection between A and B. All right, and let's say VPC C needs to talk to VPC B, right? But there is no VPC connections for that. We can say there is no VPC, there is no peering connection between C and B. So in VPC peering, transitive we can say transitive connection cannot be possible. What I mean, though C is connected to A and A is connected to B, it doesn't mean C can talk to B. It's not possible. To let one VPC to connect to another VPC, you have to make a direct connections. All right. So that's a problem. Why it's a problem? Because we have three VPC. It might not be that complex, but let's say if we have 100 VPCs in our organizations, that means that 100 VPC needs to be connected to other VPC. So 100 VPC and each VPC will have 100 connections. So there will be so many VPC peering connections we might need. So at the end of the day, it will be difficult to manage the connections, right? And to solve that problem, AWS come up with another concept, and they call it transit gateway. Transit gateway. So as the name suggests, so from now on, let's say we have VPC A, we have VPC B, and we have VPC C. So in transit gateway, I'm not going to give you in details demo. I'm just trying to give you some basic concepts why transit gateway is better than VPC peering. So what transit gateway can do, so in transit gateway, we will create a transit gateway in any of the accounts. So this is a transit gateway. And with the transit gateway, we have 3 VPC. So that means we need to make just 3 connections, right? And this is the source of truth. If anything happens, we need to just manage the one transit gateway, right? In the one transit gateway, there will be lots of, they call it attachment. So you can see this line. In AWS, it's called attachment. So there is just only one transit gateway, but in that transit gateway, we can create more attachments. So that's how we can simplify the network connectivity, right? So that's why I'm saying in the diagram, we can make an network connectivity in 2 ways. We can either use VPC peering, which is the simplest one, but if the organization is too big, if the enterprise level of organizations, they will have hundreds of VPCs, maybe more than that. In those cases, we should not go for VPC peering, rather we should go for transit gateway connections or transit gateway peering, right? That way we can simplify the connectivity between different VPCs, right? So that's pretty all. I took too much time. I plan to finish it by 1 hour, but it's really difficult to finish in 1 hour. But that's what I was trying to explain in this session. If you have any questions, just let me know. You can ping me on LinkedIn, or you can send me personal message on. You can email me as well. So I will try to give answer if I can. Yeah, I think that's all. If you have no other questions, so thank you for attending the session. Yep, thank you. Bye.